So, I told you all of that, what God's done in my life and how awesome it is. And because this passage that Sean asked me to share, he gave me a choice of last week's or this week's. And it was talking about forgiveness last week. And I told him honestly, I was like, it'd be easier for me to share about forgiveness because that's more of a strong suit if I have any. I have a lot of things to say about that, and I've kind of overcome that a lot more than this week's. But it would be more of a challenge this week's because it hits so close to home. Because I am the Enneagram thing we did a couple years ago, it reveals what your personality traits are. And I am a performer, meaning I like the applause, I like the lights, I like to not only do well, but I like for you to know I'm doing well. And those are the things that I've had to get victory over, pleasing and making it look like I'm doing good even when I'm not. I'm a doer. I like to do. I like to figure out what I need to do and do it, and I expect sometimes that will produce great things. But this passage that we're going to be talking about is the passage with Mary and Martha, and they talk about the one that's doing and the one that's being, and how it's more important to be in God's presence. So I want to start by reading that passage. As they continued their travel, Jesus entered a village. A woman named by the name of Martha welcomed him and made him feel quite at home. She had a sister, Mary, who sat before the master, hanging on every word he said. But Martha was pulled away by all she had to do in the kitchen. Later she stepped in, interrupting them. Master, don't you care that my sister has abandoned the kitchen to me? Tell her to lend me a hand. The master said, Martha, dear Martha, you're fussing far too much and getting yourself worked up over nothing. One thing only is essential, and Mary has chosen it. It's the main course and won't be taken from her. So we're going to divide these up and tackle these two different things. We're going to start with what Mary, where she was, and then we'll come back to Martha, which is closer to what I would have done if I was in that situation. But the thing with Mary is she was focused on being in the presence of God. He was there in the room. How many people actually have Jesus in their house? And she was focused on being in his presence. That was the priority, not anything she needed to do for him. But let's just be together. She understood something that is very important then and now, that in the presence of God, there's peace. And I found a couple of passages that demonstrate this. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow, and they awake him, and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? The thing that stood out to me about this is not only did he get up from his nap and calm the wind and say, Peace be still, after that he was frustrated with them for waking him up. Like, what do you think is going to happen? I'm in the boat. If you're out here by yourself, maybe, but I'm in the boat. You're in my presence. He is peace. Obviously, he has victory over peace because he didn't even say anything to the storm. He said, Peace, be still. Everything stops. So he is the ingredient that they need to not worry, regardless of what the situation is. Not that everything was perfect and they needed to have faith. He was frustrated that they weren't full of faith when the storm hit. It's one thing if he would have said, okay, everything's cool, we're doing all these miracles, and like, of course your faith is up. He was mad or frustrated that they didn't have faith when the boat was full and it seemed like it was the end. So Jesus is peace. That's another example. I'll do another one. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame and fire slew those men that took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnaces. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, Did we cast three men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto him, King, true, O king. Lo, I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. The thing that I want to point out is that it says the form of the Son of God. I don't know how or why they thought that they would recognize that. But for whatever reason, the king thought that that was Jesus, the Son of God, was in there. And it doesn't have any record that they were running, oh my God, we're on fire, oh, we're burning, oh my God. There's no record of that. I mean, it doesn't say that. It just says they were standing there at peace because Jesus is there. No reason to panic. Jesus is there. No reason to panic if Jesus is in the boat. And so yesterday I was watching TV, Hallmark Channel. I'm still obsessed. I watch at least one a day. My wife doesn't like that very much, but I like it. So I'm watching it with my family, and then knock on the door comes, and oh man, it's Saturday. It's probably the Jehovah's Witnesses. What am I going to do? Okay, all right, let's do it. So I get up and I open the door. They give me their full spiel, hand me their card. They get through all of their spiel, and then they say, hey, we even have some information about some scriptures to help deal with it. A lot of people have anxiety about the coronavirus. And how are you dealing with that? Are you? I was like, well, I probably don't deal with it like most people do. Well, what do you mean? I was like, well, I'm actually part of a leadership team at a church in Clayton, and I'm actually speaking tomorrow, and I'm going to speak about the fact that Jesus is peace. And I told them the same stories I just told you, and I said I'm going to share about those things and how, like, if Jesus is in the boat, there's no reason to fear. If Jesus is in the fire, there's no reason to fear. And I said that I'm going to talk to them about the fact that if Jesus is not actually just in the boat or in the fire, if he's actually in our hearts, if he's in us, why are Christians freaking out the same way as everyone else? I was like, I don't understand. I was like, greater is he that's in me than he is in. They were like, yes, brother, praise the Lord. They abandoned their script. They abandoned their pitch. They abandoned trying to convert me. We were unified in the fact that Jesus is bigger than the coronavirus. They were happy that I was preaching, and we shook hands, and they left. Neither one of us tried to convert each other. We were happy and unified, and Jesus is powerful. And within him, there's peace. There's no reason to freak out if you have the Son of God walking around with you. Not that you shouldn't do that, what you can do. Okay, we're going to be wise. We're going to have hand sanitizer. We're going to be careful. But after we've done all of that, then my suggestion is to trust the Lord. Not do all of this stuff to prepare and to be safe and then freak out anyways. What are we doing? If we're Christians and we're freaking out just like everyone else, like, I don't understand. Anyways, I'll stop with that. But within Jesus, there is peace. And so that's the thing that Mary understood, was that it was more important to be in Jesus' presence than it was to do anything for him. And so now we're going to talk about what Martha, and that identifies more with me because, like I said, I'm a doer. And so I've shared this with a few people, and I want to sum this up with the fact that I guess maybe after the Depression in history, there were people that came out of it, and they were determined that they were going to achieve and they were going to have in this way, that they were going to do whatever it takes. We're going to have a house. We're going to have 2 cars. We're going to have new cars. We're not going to be broke for the rest of our lives. So they put all of their energy in providing for their families. But at the end of the day, there's family, but they don't know them. And it talks about, like in the Bible, that Jesus says that there's going to be, in the end times, there's going to be people that come and say, Lord, I did all of this stuff for you. I cast out demons. I did all of this stuff. I did all of this in your name. And he's like, depart from me. I don't know you. And that's harsh. My God, man, that is hardcore. But then I start thinking about it, and God is a God of relationship, and he's serious about that. And I use that illustration about the people that raise their kids, and then their kids wake up and one day and they're like, that's great that you provided for me, Dad. I'm glad that we have a nice house and car, but I don't know you. And so I'm going into my adulthood not caring that much about including you in my life because your work was more important than me. What you do for me was more important than you being in my presence, being at my games, being at my events. You made your choice. I'm making mine now. I'm going to do my thing. And so that hits extremely close with me because I'm a performer. I'm a doer. I'm a lot like some of those people back then that I want to achieve something and bring my family out of lack, and I want to do. But the thing is that I've had the stunning realization recently is my kids don't care about that. They don't care about all the stuff I told you at the beginning of the day that we have going on, and they don't care. You know how they qualify how effective I am to them? How many hours I log on the trampoline every week. They care less that I have a record company. They don't care that I have 2 tours. They don't care that I have a nonprofit. They don't care. Just let's go on the trampoline, Dad. And you know why they like the trampoline so much? My computer doesn't go on the trampoline. This phone's too fragile. iPhone 11 Max with all that. It doesn't go on the trampoline. So if they could just get me on the trampoline and zip that zipper shut, they've got me. They've got my presence. They don't care about the other stuff. So I have to face that and make hard decisions that I'm going to focus on being in their presence more than I'm going to do for them. Yes, I'm still going to do, but I'm going to first spend time with them. This part, I'm excited. There's 2 chairs here because in sharing this with my wife this week, she had some profound things to say in a different perspective. And so I asked that she would finish this message with me. So if you'll welcome the pretty girl to the stage. So, I mean, I have the perspective as a man, and I think that resonates with men. Like, we want to do, we want to provide, and we want for our wives and our kids. And so I understand that perspective, but my wife has a different perspective, obviously. So, hi, baby. You look very nice today.
Thanks. Hi.
I haven't seen her today yet.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let you into our relationship a little bit. Welcome in. I'm very similar as in the doer, not so much on the achieving side, but definitely on the doer. I'm very much a in the weeds and details person, as we've talked about before. So I can very, very easily get lost in the chaos of it all. I always have a million things going through my head. It takes me an hour or more to go to sleep just to turn my brain off. Constantly, if I'm not doing one thing, I'm doing something else, or I'm trying to do like 12 or 15 things at one time and doing none of them very well. I'm definitely a start and struggle to finish because I'm doing too many things kind of person. So when we were talking about this, it just really reminded me of being a mom and working and a wife, and how much I struggle to balance all of that, and how I constantly feel like I'm failing no matter where I am. So if I'm at work, I constantly feel like I'm failing at home because I'm not there. Or if I'm at home, I constantly feel like I'm failing at work because I'm not there. Or if I'm cleaning, then I should be spending time with the kids. But if I'm spending time with the kids, then I should be starting dinner. And if I'm starting dinner, then I should be cleaning. Or, it's always, it's never ending, right? But I just kind of had the realization that, because I constantly feel like, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, somebody has to do this. I have to take care of this. And that is really true to a certain extent. And so I am trying to continue to learn that I really have to give myself grace, because the laundry does have to be done. Somebody does have to cook dinner. I do have to accomplish stuff at work. I do have to leave my children every now and then. I can't always be at everything. And 90% of what I'm doing is for them. And they're not always going to understand that, but there are levels that we do have to do things to provide for them, to keep them safe, to keep things functioning, to have healthy relationships. Other things have to be done in order to have a foundation for that. So I have to give myself grace in those areas when I am doing, and I think that that's really important. But I also have to give myself grace on the other side that laundry can wait sometimes. And we are extremely blessed in the clothes that we have. We are not going to run out if I don't do laundry every day. It's okay if we wore the same thing 2 days in a row. Sometimes it's easier to just wear the same thing 2 days in a row. It's okay. It's okay. So giving yourself grace on that side too. So kind of an example of this, I spent last Saturday getting pampered, and I got a haircut, and it was glorious. Hadn't had it done in years. But I hadn't seen my kids all day because they were staying at my mom's, and I came home Saturday, and my littlest, Lyric, who's 2, happened to have slept for like
3.5 hours. It was fantastic.
The dad was very excited because he was babysitting. I got home at like 6:45 at night. Typically, our kids go to bed at 7, and she had just woken up. So that was okay, but complicated a little bit. But honestly, the look on her face when I walked in, she was so happy. She woke up happy, not cranky. Thank you. She was so happy to see me, and she just was saying my name over and over and over again. She probably said "Mama" like 5,000 times. And she just kept talking to me, and she kept grabbing my hand and dragging me around the house, and she got Barbies and little stuffed animals, and she was sitting at the table and just chatting and chatting and chatting and chatting a mile a minute, did not take a breath. But she kept saying my name over and over, and there was just something about that interaction that overwhelmed me with the sincerity and the sweetness of it, and remembering that this season only lasts so long. And there was something so special about the connection. She needed that connection with me, and I didn't realize how much I needed it too. And so it just reminded me of I hadn't been home all day. There was a million things that I should be accomplishing. It was a Saturday. We had church the next morning. I should be packing diaper bags and laying out clothes and all of these things, but I didn't. And I sat for an hour and a half, and she didn't stop talking for an hour and a half. And she's 2, so you can imagine the repetition. But she just kept talking to me, and she just kept showing me Barbies and laughing and singing songs. It was just a really sweet moment and a really sweet connection. And it just reminded me so much of what we've been talking about, of sometimes it is okay to just be. And sometimes the just being, not only for the person that we're with, it obviously meant something to my daughter, but it meant something to me, and I didn't even realize how much I needed it. And I think that's so often the case in our relationship with God. I know that God is looking for that from us constantly. He's our Father. But I think a lot of times we don't realize how much we need it. We don't realize how much we need to stop and just take a minute to breathe and to connect and be seen and be heard and be recharged. And yeah.
Awesome. Good job. Worship team, you guys can come on and get in position. We're going to finish this up. And Sean made sure he says, okay, what's the big point? After everything you say, what's the thing that you're focusing on? What's the big takeaway? The big takeaway is that this whole talk about us and our relationship and our kids and all that was just a parable, if you will, just to get you to think about your relationship with God. Sometimes it's easier to think about the fact of real people and real interactions And when I say that kids grow up and they feel like they don't know their parents that worked for them all these years, it's easier for you to understand. And then maybe if you can shift that to your relationship with God and understand that God wants a relationship with you. And God, we sing the song, popular song now, even when I don't see it, he's working. Even when we don't hear it, feel it, he's working. So God works. He does do. But he still makes it a priority to be with you. So maybe we should do the same thing. I'll finish with this story. A couple of nights ago, I'm going to try not to cry. We're sitting on the couch. We're watching TV with our nieces are in town from Reading, and so we're trying to have fun with them. And so we're watching a movie, and of course I fall asleep as always.
And we all sit and laugh, as always.
Yeah.
I didn't record you or take pictures this time, I promise.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I already have lots of those.
So our little girl, I guess while I was asleep, she was talking to me, and Daddy's sleeping or whatever. And so when I wake up, she's so excited I'm awake, and she comes over, and she climbs on me, and she's just having a grand old time in Dad's presence. And I look over at my wife, and the joy in her face, just watching me interact with our little girl, blessed me. It's not just important what I do for them, how I work, how I provide the opportunities. The joy I saw in her face with me just being a good dad. It's so important. I take it for granted. Why don't you guys stand on your feet? We're going to sing this last song. I'm going to pray with that. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to bring focus back to our relationship with you. It's not about what we do. It's about being in your presence. In your presence there is peace. In your presence, when someone has an accident and falls on stage and we don't know what to do, we don't know what's happening, in your presence there's peace. Before we knew what the outcome was, there's peace. Lord, help us to keep the main thing the main thing. You are the main thing, not our job, not anything we can achieve or do. The main thing is you. We love you,
Lord, for anyone in this room that just feels like, I don't know how to do that, or I don't have the time, I don't have an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours to sit at your feet. God, I have learned and I'm still learning that it doesn't take 3 hours. Any amount of time does something. So God, I just pray that you would help people understand that they just have to start somewhere. Any amount of time, any amount of brain space that they can spare is okay. It's not too little. God, I pray that you would just speak to the hearts right now, that you would encourage, that you would let them know that you're there, that you see them, that you're waiting. And as long as it takes, a short amount of time as it is, you're there and you're waiting for them. I pray that you would just speak that over them right now, Lord. That even in this, it's not achieving. It's not achieving a 3-hour Bible study with you. It's not achieving being able to lay flat on our face and cry out to you in worship. Any amount of connection makes a difference. Whether it's 5 minutes on a car ride, whether it's 2 minutes waiting in line to pick a kid up from school, whether it's 20 minutes sitting eating at a lunch break, whether it's in bed reading some scripture before you fall asleep, God, any amount of connection makes a difference. We thank you that you'll take whatever we have, even when it seems small,